as we close in 2024, let's break down the top causes of death for the year 2023. If you've been following our channel for any length of time, you know that every year we like to break down this report to enumerate how people are dying and from what, and to help you better apply scientific principles to your lifestyle, wellness, nutrition, and fitness routine. Because as you might know, heart disease and cancer have claimed the leading causes of death for the past several years. And I think it's a really good thing to start to focus on in terms of adjusting your diet, your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep habits, because statistically speaking, most people are dying from heart disease and cancer. And 2023 was no different. So let's get into it. The title of this report, as you likely know, is Mortality in the United States Provisional Data for the year 2023. As I mentioned, we've reviewed this every year. Now, for some reason in 2023, this report was really late. Normally, it's published in March of the following year. For example, in 2021, we got 2020's statistics in March of 2021. So this came out late summer. Here we go. In the US, during the year 2023, a provisional total of 3 million deaths occurred in the United States. The age-adjusted death rate per 100,000 people was 884 among males and 632 among females. The overall rate was 6.1% lower compared to 2022. Now, if you're new to our channel, you may not remember the data from 2020 and 2021 as well as 2022. So let's review those shortly from their associated reports. Now, during the year 2020, as you know, there was a surge of deaths from all sorts of different aspects: unintended injuries, suicides, COVID-19, heart disease, drug overdoses, and beyond. So during the year 2020, 3.3 million people died in the US alone. Now, what was interesting is in 2021, we had masking, we had lockdowns, we had the immunization, all these things, but there was actually more deaths in 2021 compared to 2020, which I think is actually quite curious, as you can see from this table. During the year 2021, 3.45 million people died in the US. Now, again, the causes and the leading spots of mortality shifted in 2021. Heart disease, cancer, then COVID. During the year 2023, I'll share with you shortly, it barely made the top 10. So fast forward to the statistics here in 2021, because I think this is really important. Now, why am I focusing on 2021? Because we had herd immunity, natural immunity, and all sorts of therapies were rolled out during the year 2021, if you catch my drift. So the report from the CDC in 2021 says COVID-19 was listed as the underlying cause for 415,000 deaths during the year 2021, ranked as the third leading cause of death after heart disease. 693,000 people died during the year 2021 from heart disease, and 604,000 people died from cancer. Now, why am I emphasizing in 2021 the importance of preventing heart disease and cancer? Because they outnumbered COVID-19 deaths, and they were also the metabolic risk factors that predispose you to both heart disease and cancer are also risk factors for, at that time, getting severely ill from COVID. But no one really cared about going to the gym or eating healthy foods. They were really excited about hand sanitization and masking and staying home and the sort. But it turns out that fitness mattered back then, and it matters today, because we're going to talk about heart disease deaths that have spiked in 2023 very, very soon. But since we're talking about metabolic health, friends, first, I just want to pause and say thank you for being here. We're going to review 2023's numbers very soon. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button. Be sure to share this video with a friend who may benefit from this information. And because we know that metabolic health is so important for preventing all sorts of different conditions and ailments and helping you live a healthy, vital life, I just want to remind you about a natural tool that can help support your metabolic health. This tool is known as Berberine. Berberine has been used for 3,000 years. It helps suppress your appetite, and it helps support all facets of metabolic health and may even help you lose belly fat. There's tons of reviews over at myoscience.com. The Berberine Fasting Accelerator is unique because it not only has a purified, scientifically validated form of berberine in a great therapeutic dose, but it also has associated nutrients like alpha-lipoic acid and biotin. There's hundreds of reviews from people just like you who are trying to optimize their health over at myoscience.com. Click the link in the description below and use the code podcast at checkout to save. All right, so let's get into 2023 in a little bit more granular detail. I think this is really important because it seems that heart disease is on the rise. More people are dying from heart disease now compared to the last 4 years. And I'm not saying this with any enthusiasm. I'm saying this because this is a big area we can all focus on, my friends. 702,000 people here in the US died from cardiovascular related diseases. So we're talking about myocardial infarctions, heart attacks. We're talking about strokes. We're talking about blood clots. We're talking about sudden cardiac death. Various cardiovascular related complications had led to the premature morbidity and mortality of 702,000 individuals here in the US. Now, that is up from the year 2022, where just 699,000 adults died from heart disease. It turns out that deaths from cancer are also up. 608,000 people died from cancer in the year 2023 compared to just 607,000 in the year 2022. And let's look at 2021. 604,000 deaths from cancer and 693,000 deaths from cardiovascular disease. Okay, so what are our thoughts here? We can really break down the granular detail and talk about the age-adjusted mortality rates for these different conditions and so on. But it turns out that COVID-19 barely made the top 10. It was down there at about 45,000 deaths during the year 2023. Now, why does this really matter? Well, I don't know about you, but if you've been on an airplane recently, or if you go to the grocery store, you still see people wearing N95 masks everywhere. But they have no problem taking that off to drink Pepsi or Sprite or Mountain Dew or have pretzels or whatever else. So I'm not trying to pick on people, but I think if we're going to be logically consistent and focus on public health and our own health, we should really be prioritizing diet and exercise and lifestyle regimes that have the greatest impact. And it seems that majority of people are statistically going to die prematurely from the combination of heart disease and cancer. And it turns out that the etiology or the pathophysiology, the path to developing heart disease and cancer is actually quite similar. There are underlying chronic inflammatory states, underlying poor metabolic health and insulin resistance that precede the development of cancer as well as cardiovascular disease. And so I think this is really important, and we talk a lot about looking at blood work. And so you can download our blood work cheat sheet. We talk about ways to look at metabolic health, both short-term and long-term blood sugar regulation, liver enzymes, and beyond that are also going to predispose one to develop cancer in the short and long term as well. So I just think this is a really important point that we should focus on, my friends. I think furthermore, the American medical system and really the global medical system has vilified LDL cholesterol and total cholesterol and saturated fats for the better part of 6 years. We've been beating that drum, yet we still see a higher than ever population adjusted death rate from heart disease. So isn't it time that we possibly reevaluate the messaging that we're sharing with people and maybe start to look at what other factors in one's diet or environment or lifestyle are contributing to the etiology, the development of cardiovascular disease, as well as cancer. Now, the relative increase in heart disease and cancer is not astronomical. As I mentioned, during the year 2023, there was 702,000 deaths from cardiovascular disease compared to just 699,000 in 2022 and 693,000 in 2021. And then you also see cancer deaths have steadily increased. And so again, I think if the deaths were going down, we might say, okay, well, maybe the health advice is getting to the right people and they're listening and making the appropriate changes. But clearly the trend statistics are going in the wrong direction. More and more people are dying from these associated conditions. And furthermore, let's break down some of the statistics between the years 2020 and up to 2023 for their age ranges. I think this is actually quite sad and very illuminating. If we look specifically at the age range between 35 and 44, during the year 2020, only 10,000 people died between the ages of 35 and 44. When we compare and contrast that to the year 2021, 124,000 people died between the ages of 35 and 44. Now, we don't have all the specific causes of death bucketed out for that age range, but again, this is a massive increase. We're talking about like a 500% increase here, comparing 10,000 deaths in 2020 compared to 124,000 deaths in 2021. Now, we can also see a demonstrable increase, unfortunately, in deaths when comparing the years 2020 and 2021 for the age group between 45 and 54. individuals, and this is both men and women, between the ages of 45 and 54, 191,000 people died during the year 2020. During the year 2021, 215,000 people died. So you're talking about 25,000-ish, plus or minus, more people unfortunately passed away. What I think is actually quite curious is the small increase in children under the age of 1. And again, this is not parsed out by cause of death. Were these stillbirths? Were they newborns? Were they just toddlers? What have you? But during the year 2020, 19,582 children under the age of 1 had died. And that slightly went up during the year 2021 to just 19,724. Now, here's what's kind of curious about this. If we look at 2022 as well as 2023, those numbers they've increased. So during the year 2022, 20,553 children died under the age of 1. And that went down slightly during the year 2023 to just 20,140, which is actually quite sad when you actually look at these figures here. And again, when you look at 2022 and 23 compared to 2020 and 2021, when you look at deaths between the ages of 5 and 14, they are up as well. About 1,000 more children between the ages of 5 and 14 have died in 22, as well as 2023 compared to 2020 and 2021, which I think is quite curious. Deaths between the ages of 15 and 24 had stayed about the same at around 35,000. I don't know. That's really interesting to me. I'm not really sure what that would be. I think there was a lot of unintended harm, drug overdoses, suicide, and violent related deaths and beyond, which is really unfortunate. So I think we're just, in 2022, definitely seeing the aftermath of lockdowns and social isolation and some of the poorly thought out public health policies by our expert policymakers really disproportionately impacted the people who were least vulnerable from dying from COVID, which is quite paradoxical. So I would love to know what you think in the comment section below, my friends. I think it's important to just share this information so that we can make better decisions. If you're going to wear a face mask on an airplane because you're worried about catching COVID and getting really sick, then please don't text and drive. Please don't guzzle corn, canola, or soybean oil or drink soda. And make sure you're going to the gym at least 3 to 5 days per week and walking at least 8 to 12,000 steps per day, because research shows that when you vigorously exercise, you can cut your risk and reduce your risk of developing cancer as well as developing heart disease. So again, if you're scared of catching a relatively benign respiratory pathogen, then you should absolutely be embarking on all those modalities that also reduce your blood pressure and support metabolic health to reduce the odds that you might die prematurely from both cancer and heart and cardiovascular disease. So I will link this in the comment section below, my friends, the description that is of this recently published article. I appreciate you all tuning in. Happy New Year to you, and we'll catch you on a future video down the road.